If the last 5 years have taught me anything, it's that there are a lot of cowards in Scotland. They operate on different levels, and a lot of them swan around as if they have done nothing wrong, but it doesn't take much to rattle their cage. In the last 5 years, I've seen I'm gonna tweets and blogs. I've heard others bellow on podcasts about what needs to be done, kind of in a similar way to when a millionaire tells us to give money to charity. I've seen the winds go one way on a story and people vanish, only for them to re-emerge when the wind blows back and they tell everyone they were right all along. I've seen monumental news break and read a few timelines of journalists at the same time, only to see that they are tweeting about the latest starlet in Scotland, how great one of their colleagues is, or what is about to come on TV. I've encountered many of these types in my time, and every so often I'll challenge them, publicly and privately. The usual response is to act like they have absolutely no idea about the biggest subject in Scottish football that day. That's bollocks, of course. Despite what you might think, most sports journalists in Scotland could tell you Gordon Strachan's shoe size had pushed. They are just like us and talk about football non-stop all day, but when it comes to anything that shines a bad light on Ibrox, forget it. It's a dismal existence, and if ever a journalist was the epitome of this, it's Stephen McGowan of the Scottish Daily Mail. I was quite friendly with him for a while, online friendly anyway, and would chat on an almost daily basis. At the time, there was a story doing the rounds, catapulted in the ether by Alan McCoist, that Sevco didn't receive a bonus for winning the then third division. I had evidence to the contrary and passed it to my good mate Stephen for a good exclusive. He never spoke to me again. After a few days, he quietly unfollowed me and unfriended me, and buried the story as deep as he could. Lesson learned. My goal then was to find one of them who would feed out stories that could be then brought up at press conferences, only pricks call them pressers, and slowly chip away at the house of cards that is Sevco. I've traded information with a lot of journalists over the years, always having a pro-Celtic, anti-Rangers slant of course, and I like to keep on the heels of a few of them so they know they can't just say anything without it being accountable. There are a few journalists who put themselves up as fearless in Scottish football, which seems as ridiculous a term as tolerance at Ibrox. Gordon Waddle is one of them, a self-styled Falkirk fan who boasts of putting Peter Lawwell straight on the phone, and who will back down for no one. Yet, in a recent Twitter spat with him, I asked him why, as a Falkirk fan, he hadn't demanded justice for his Falkirk team who played a Rangers team in a Scottish Cup final full of players who were only at Ibrox because the club was cheating. His reply was, "Nothing I say will change anyone's mind." This from a fearless journalist. Probably the most outspoken journalist in Scottish football is Ewan Murray. I must declare an interest here. He is a friend of mine, and I do have a lot of time for him. He will take people to task and doesn't care who he upsets, except when it comes to anyone at Ibrox. This is even more bizarre when you consider he will happily tear a strip off the likes of Kenny McIntyre at Sportsound for hosting yet another discussion on Sevco. I'll give him points for that because no one else does, yet Ewan still won't breach the nonsensical same club myth. Then there are the PR men, those who won't give an opinion unless it's paid for, those who simply rehash stuff that has been handed to them without ever questioning it. King of these is Keith Jackson. Ever since Jim Traynor decided to flee the Daily Record, Keith has desperately tried to be the main man in the media and not the joke figure he has actually become. My first meeting with him was at a Scottish Cup League final. My first meeting with him was at a Scottish League Cup final of 2003, where I asked him all about thugs and thieves. To be fair, he was willing to take it, and that was no mean feat given how drunk I was. Even a policeman said to me after it, "You gave him some shuriken there, big man." I then saw him a month later in Oporto, the morning of the day we played Boa Vista, standing outside a hotel. His eyes looked like they had just been pepper sprayed, and he was coughing and spluttering his way through a Marlborough with the late Glenn Gibbons in close proximity, clearly suffering the after effects of a heavy night out. He saw me coming and said, "Oh no the day, big man, please," and I just smiled and walked past him. Point I am making is he seemed to be a fairly decent guy then. What has happened since? A number of things. Think of the deal Jim Traynor got. Leaves the record to take over Director of Communications at Sevco. Gets bumped but paid out on his contract. Sets up Level 5 and gets the gig directing communications at Ibrox. No bad, eh? This embittered Keith. Slowly his relevance was eroding. With Traynor controlling Ibrox output and Keith's main contact there, Paul Murray, playing no role in the day-to-day running of the club, Keith found himself more and more at a loose end. Lots of stuff at the record was introduced to make Keith look busy, the web chats being but one, yet nothing was scratching his itch. Then came Twitter. The funny thing about the Scottish mainstream media is they all scorned at Twitter for years and made fun of people like you and me, even hoard us under one banner, internet bampots. The even funnier thing is that all these journalists who poke fun at us are now on Twitter. In fact, having no online profile means you have little chance of getting a job within the Scottish media now. 1-0 bampots. The point of all this is, if the tabloid and broadsheet media did their job in Scotland, people like me wouldn't exist. I notice often that James Dolman is often derided by other journalists for crowdfunding his court case work. I think the reason for this is simple. None of the deriders could even dream of doing it, such as their lack of popularity. Let's also be clear here. James isn't making a fast buck. What he's doing is saying to folk, I can provide this service if you're willing to ensure I can also live through the time I'm doing it. That's it. No gun to the head, no false promises, just an opportunity. That was a snapshot from the introduction of the book Armageddon, which is released on March 2nd. If you want to support the project, please go to ls86productions.com and click on Armageddon, and you can see the packages that we have from £10 to £150 that expire on Halloween, where we will present our first trailer. Thank you very much for listening.